This is going to be Heroic Brackenspore. So this fight is pretty much the same as normal, except damage is much higher. So for this fight, you need to manage the mushrooms more effectively than for normal mode. All the mind rotting mushrooms need to be killed off. All of the ads need to be killed off as soon as possible. For the living mushroom, you ideally want to save the living mushroom for when he does the infesting spores. You can ideally probably keep up a living mushroom for maybe about a minute. After a minute, the health degradation gets too high to manage. Everyone needs to be in the AoE ability, and then basically from there you just move from mushroom to mushroom to get the full benefit of each mushroom that comes out. The tanks are still going to need a healer on them. The AoE healing from the mushroom is not going to be able to keep the tank alive. The big ad still needs to get interrupted when they cast Decay. You still need to do tank swaps for the Rot and for the Necrotic Breath. So basically just move from mushroom to mushroom. Rejuvenating mushrooms you should use right away. Living mushrooms you should save for when he's about to use the infesting spores. If you heal either one up early, that's fine too, because you can keep them up for maybe about a minute or so. Positioning of the mushrooms can be some RNG. They can be really far apart, and sometimes you might not be able to utilize a rejuvenating mushroom. But basically, you need to make sure you're using every living mushroom. The rejuvenating mushroom is secondary if he's about to use his AoE ability. The rejuvenating mushroom is very, very helpful for mana regeneration. So when you're on one, you can just spam your big inefficient heals. So the living mushrooms, they spawn about once every minute, and the rejuvenating mushrooms respawn about every 2 minutes and a half or so. So just move from mushroom to mushroom. Utilize living mushrooms for the AoE ability. Tanks need to swap when he does the Rot and the Necrotic Breath. Rot stacks, you can go up to maybe 4 or 5 depending on how healers and tank geared the tank is. You'll have to see which best works for you. The big ad needs to be focused down as soon as possible. All the bad mushrooms need to be killed off. All the spore shooters need to be killed off. The big ad needs to be interrupted. But as long as you guys stack and then just move from mushroom to mushroom, you shouldn't have any healing problems. Make sure you save the mushrooms for when he does the infesting spores. Because if you heal it up and you don't have one for the infesting spores, that's going to be very big raid damage. You're going to have to pop all your cooldowns to be able to heal back from that. The tank is always going to need a dedicated healer, even when under a mushroom. Tanks will need to swap when they get in the high enough stacks of rot, and then make sure the necrotic breath doesn't go on any raid member. All the ads need to be tanked, or only the big ad needs to be tanked. The bad mushrooms and the spore shooters don't need to be tanked. And then of course you still need 2 people on the fungus, clearing out the raid, clearing out the area, but they should jump into the mushroom when he does the infesting spores because they're still going to take damage as well. So we got lucky here where the rejuvenating mushroom spawned really close to the living mushroom. So if yours didn't spawn like this, you might need to just have to move around a little more. But you should try and utilize every single mushroom that you can. Even using the rejuvenating mushroom for 30 seconds or 20 seconds is better than nothing. And then heal up the living mushrooms once he starts casting infesting spores. That's really when you need it. You don't really need it if he's not doing the AoE damage ability. So basically it's the same thing over and over again. Run from mushroom to mushroom. Do the tank swap when rot gets too high or when the necrotic breath happens. Tank the big ad. interrupt the big ad, kill all the bad mushrooms and all the little ads. The little ads shoot spores that can also be killed as well mid-flight. And then you're gonna need people that are really good at clearing the moss. I hear that if you make a macro for a start cast and then end cast after like a second or two, you'll never overheat on the flamethrower. So this fight is pretty much the same as normal mode, just a little more damage. The raid needs to be a little more coordinated. But if you're able to do all that well, it's just the same thing over and over. And of course, if the moss is not managed, you're probably gonna wipe. The boss has a 10-minute enrage timer, and they also heal when standing on the moss. The bad mushrooms need to be killed off as fast as possible because they increase casting time. So there's always gonna be a living mushroom up when you're doing this. Once every minute, there's gonna be a living mushroom. So just make sure you move from it. That's really all you need to do. You just need to work together as a team, moving from mushroom to mushroom. People clearing the fungus needs to do their job. The tanks need to pick up the ad, the big ad, and then just DPS it down and interrupt the casts. So that's pretty much it for this fight.